The human military base stood hidden deep in the rocky valley of a distant alien planet. The air was heavy with smoke and the smell of hot metal, as human soldiers worked day and night testing their newest creation. A secret serum that was designed to give them power beyond imagination. This serum was not just medicine, it was a weapon. It was built for war, to give humans speed, strength, and senses so sharp that no alien warrior could ever defeat them. The scientists called it the War Serum, and they kept it locked away in secure containers that glowed with a strange blue light. They warned everyone that it was dangerous, even for humans. One wrong dose could twist the body, burn the mind, or worse. But they believed that, if perfected, it would make humans unstoppable in the galaxy. Far above this secret base, a diplomatic ship from the Royal Alien Empire landed quietly. The alien princess had come with her guards, pretending it was only for a political meeting. But in truth, she was young, restless, and full of curiosity. She had heard whispers about human experiments, about a liquid that made men stronger, faster, and almost godlike. No alien had ever been allowed near it, and that only made her more determined to see it with her own eyes. She felt humans were hiding something powerful, something dangerous, and she wanted to uncover the truth for herself. The princess moved gracefully through the base with her guards, her long silver hair shimmering under the artificial lights, her bright golden eyes scanning every detail around her. To the humans, she looked calm and royal, but inside she was fighting the urge to sneak away, to explore where she was not allowed. When the meeting ended and her guards were distracted, she quietly slipped into the restricted section of the base. Her heart raced as alarms blinked silently on the walls, and her steps echoed softly against the cold steel floor. She knew she was crossing a line that no alien should ever cross. In the middle of the room, she found what she had been searching for. A row of glowing containers sat on a metal table, each one filled with the strange blue liquid that shimmered like fire trapped in water. She walked closer, her eyes locked on the light, almost hypnotized. The containers looked harmless, like a drink or an energy tonic. She picked one up carefully, turning it in her hand. It felt warm, alive, as if it was pulsing with energy. She whispered to herself, "So this is the secret humans are hiding." The label on the container was in human language, and though she understood some of it, she ignored the red warning symbols. She believed humans were exaggerating the danger to keep aliens away. Her pride as a princess pushed her forward. Why should she fear something humans created? If they could drink it, why couldn't she? Before her mind could stop her, her curiosity won the battle. She lifted the container to her lips and drank. The taste burned her throat instantly, sharp like fire and ice at the same time. Her chest tightened, her veins felt like they were on fire, and a strange heat spread through her entire body. She dropped the container as the blue liquid inside glowed even brighter, spilling across the floor like liquid lightning. Her eyes widened as her hands trembled, her breathing fast and heavy. Her guards rushed into the room, shouting her name, but they froze when they saw her glowing skin. The serum was already changing her. Her veins lit up under her skin, glowing blue like rivers of fire. Her heart pounded louder and louder, until it sounded like thunder in her ears. She staggered forward, her body both weak and powerful at the same time, as if the serum was trying to tear her apart and rebuild her into something new. The humans arrived next, their faces pale with fear. One of the scientists screamed, "No!" She drank it. "Stop her before it's too late." Soldiers tried to grab her, but the moment they touched her, a wave of energy burst from her body, throwing them back against the walls. The princess looked at her glowing hands, her golden eyes now burning with a strange blue fire. She whispered in shock, What is happening to me?" The serum was not made for her kind. For humans, it was meant to enhance. But for her alien blood, it was unpredictable. Every second that passed, her body pulsed with more power, and her emotions twisted wildly between fear, rage, and something else she couldn't understand. She felt stronger than ever before, but also more unstable, like a storm ready to break. The room was in chaos. Guards shouted, humans panicked, alarms screamed, but in the middle of it all stood the alien princess. her body glowing like a living weapon, her heart torn between who she was and what the serum was turning her into. No one knew if she would survive, destroy herself, or unleash something the galaxy had never seen before. And in that moment, everyone realized the mistake was too big to hide. The accident that began with one sip of forbidden human serum would soon shake not only the base, not only her people, but the entire galaxy. The alien princess stumbled back against the steel walls as the serum continued to burn inside her veins, her breath ragged and uneven, her hands trembling as though they no longer belonged to her. Her body was in chaos, but at the same time there was a strange and frightening sense of power rushing through her blood. She could feel her muscles tightening, her heart pounding faster than ever, and her senses opening wider than she thought possible. The humming of machines sounded like thunder, the footsteps of soldiers echoed like drums, and even the tiny vibrations of the base seemed to shake her to the core. Her alien guards tried to surround her, shouting for her to stay calm, but every time they reached for her she gave off a pulse of blue light that knocked them away. The serum had made her body unstable, and she was no longer the graceful princess who walked into the human base. She was something else now, something the galaxy had never seen before. The human scientists exchanged nervous glances, fear flashing across their faces. They had seen the serum work on humans in controlled amounts, but they had never imagined what it would do to an alien body, especially one with royal blood that carried traits different from common people. One of the older scientists whispered in horror that her cells were not rejecting the serum, they were multiplying with it, absorbing it, becoming something far beyond the limits of the experiment. The other humans argued whether to restrain her or to observe her transformation, but it was already too late for careful decisions. The princess screamed, clutching her head, her voice echoing across the steel chamber, and then the glow around her body flared brighter, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. The air itself seemed to ripple as if the walls could barely contain her unstable energy. She tried to speak, tried to call for help, but her words came out broken, almost like a growl mixed with a cry. She looked at her hands again, watching veins of blue light race beneath her alien skin like rivers of fire. She could feel her heartbeat pushing harder, each thump like an explosion inside her chest. Fear gripped her, but it was mixed with something darker. Anger, hunger, and an overwhelming surge of desire for destruction. She could sense things she never sensed before, the fear in the soldiers around her, the electricity running through the walls, even the tiny heartbeat of a small creature far outside the base. Her body was no longer hers, and her mind was slipping between who she was and what the serum was making her. Her guards panicked, shouting to the human soldiers to do something, but the humans themselves were frozen. They had no plan for this, no training for what to do if an alien royal injected their most dangerous experiment. Some tried to pull weapons, but the general shouted at them to stop. Shooting her would mean starting a war with her people, and besides, no weapon could guarantee success against a creature whose body was glowing with unstable power. The princess staggered forward again, and the floor beneath her cracked as though her very steps carried unnatural force. One of her guards ran to help her, but when he touched her arm, the energy burst again, flinging him across the chamber and leaving his armor scorched and smoking. The princess gasped at what she had done, her voice shaking with both guilt and horror. She had not meant to hurt him, but she was losing control faster with every second. The humans tried to contain the chamber by sealing the blast doors, red lights flashing as alarms screamed across the base. Soldiers outside whispered rumors, their voices trembling. Some said she had turned into a monster, others swore she had become a goddess in the flesh. None dared to open the doors once they were shut, because they feared what might come out if the serum inside her reached its peak. The older scientist pressed his hands against the glass window, studying her with wide eyes, muttering that this was not just a reaction. It was evolution. He said the serum had found something inside her blood, something ancient and hidden, and it was bringing it to life. His words filled the chamber with an even heavier tension, because if he was right, then she was no longer simply an alien princess. She was becoming something beyond alien, beyond human, a hybrid born of accident and danger. The princess fell to her knees, clutching her chest as waves of energy coursed through her. The glow in her eyes grew brighter, and for a brief moment she could see her reflection in the steel walls. She did not recognize the person staring back at her. Her soft royal features were distorted by the blue light, her body trembling like a volcano about to erupt. She felt fear grip her heart, but then anger replaced it, then sorrow, then rage again. Her emotions swung wildly, as though the serum was tearing apart her mind. She screamed again, and the force of her cry shattered a glass console nearby, sparks flying as machinery exploded. The humans flinched, some even backing away, but no one dared to turn their back to her. In that terrifying moment, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Deep inside the base, far from the eyes of the public, a young alien princess had been transformed into something dangerous and unknown. She was no longer weak, no longer delicate. She was unstable, powerful, and unpredictable. The mistake had been made, and now both humans and aliens knew they were standing at the edge of disaster. The serum had not just entered her body, it had claimed her, and no one could predict what she might do next. Would she destroy the base, destroy herself, or rise into something that even the galaxy's strongest warriors could not stand against? The soldiers, the guards, and the scientists could only stare, their hearts racing with dread, knowing that one wrong move could trigger the unstoppable change into something beyond their imagination. News of the accident spread faster than anyone could control. The base had been locked down, but word of the alien princess's transformation leaked through frightened soldiers, nervous guards, and even the scientists who could not keep such a secret buried. Within hours, whispers traveled beyond the steel walls of the military compound and reached alien diplomats waiting in orbit. They demanded answers, but the humans offered none, only silence and excuses. The rumors grew with every passing moment. Some claimed the princess was poisoned by humans on purpose. Others said she was experimented on like an animal, and a few whispered the most dangerous rumor of all, that she had been turned into a weapon. By the time the news reached the royal palace of her empire, the whispers had already turned into roars of outrage. Her father, the emperor, sat on his throne surrounded by counselors and generals, his face dark with anger as he heard the reports. The idea that his daughter, the jewel of his people, had been harmed by humans filled him with fury. But even more dangerous was the fear that she had been changed beyond recognition. He demanded that fleets be prepared, warships loaded, and soldiers ready to move against humanity if she was not returned safely. His generals argued whether she was even alive or if she had already become something dangerous, but the emperor silenced them with a wave of his hand. His heart burned with both grief and rage, and he vowed that if humanity had betrayed his trust, they would pay in fire. On the other side of the galaxy, human leaders scrambled to contain the situation. Generals held secret meetings, debating whether to admit the truth or bury it. Some wanted to lie, to say the princess had fallen ill on her own. Others argued that hiding the truth was useless, because the serum was already visible in her glowing skin and unstable power. One commander warned that if the alien empire believed humans had harmed their princess, it could spark the greatest war the galaxy had ever seen. But another reminded them that if she survived and embraced her new power, the aliens might see her as a goddess, and in that case, humanity would be blamed for creating something they could not control. Whatever path they chose, the balance of peace was shattering, and both sides knew it. Meanwhile, inside the sealed base, the princess struggled with the storm raging inside her. She could hear voices echoing through the walls, human soldiers whispering, alien guards shouting, and distant calls from her people demanding she be released. The serum inside her veins surged again, making her body tremble, her skin flickering between blue light and her natural glow. Her mind was torn apart by conflicting emotions. Rage at the humans for keeping the serum secret, fear for what she had become, sorrow for hurting her own guards, and a strange pull of energy that made her want to destroy everything around her. Each emotion was so strong it felt like it would tear her apart. She clutched her chest, her golden eyes blazing with unstable fire, and wondered if she would ever return to the princess she once was. Outside the base, the galaxy began to fracture. Alien fleets moved toward human borders, massive ships filling the void of space with their sharp metallic silhouettes. Human defense systems activated, Warships rose from hidden hangars, and both sides stood ready for a war no one wanted but everyone feared. Civilian planets panicked, marketplaces filled with rumors, and common people whispered that the princess's fate would decide the fate of them all. Some saw her as a victim of human cruelty. Others whispered that she had become more powerful than her father, destined to rule not just her empire but all life in the galaxy. Among the chaos, there were those who saw opportunity. Mercenaries, warlords, and rival factions whispered in the dark corners of space, plotting how to use the princess's transformation for their own gain. Some believed she could be stolen, taken as a living weapon. Others wanted her destroyed before she could decide her own path. The galaxy was no longer watching in silence. It was circling like predators around prey, waiting for the moment to strike. Back in the chamber, a single human soldier stood closer to her than the others. His eyes filled not with fear but with determination. He remembered the days before she drank the serum, when she had spoken with calm dignity, when her laughter had echoed softly during diplomatic visits, when she had shown curiosity instead of rage. He believed that the princess inside was still alive, buried under the chaos of the serum, and he refused to abandon her. He stepped forward slowly, despite the shouts of his commanders warning him to stay back. His voice was calm, steady, and filled with conviction as he called her name. For a moment, her glowing eyes turned toward him, and something flickered inside them. Recognition, maybe even trust. That brief flicker gave hope, but it also deepened the fear of everyone watching. If she regained control, she might choose peace. But if she surrendered to the storm, she might unleash destruction that no fleet could contain. The galaxy was now a powder keg, every faction waiting for the spark that would decide everything. The fate of worlds hung in the balance, and all of it depended on whether one alien princess, transformed by Human War Serum, could control the unstoppable change inside her. And so the galaxy held its breath. Inside the sealed chamber, the alien princess sat hunched against the cold steel wall, her body trembling as the storm of power continued to twist through her veins. Her once soft and calm presence was now replaced by a terrifying aura that made even the bravest soldiers hesitate to look at her directly. She could feel the serum surging through her blood like a living thing, pushing her body past every natural limit, whispering in her mind to unleash herself fully, to stop resisting, to accept the chaos as her new self. Every heartbeat felt like thunder, every breath felt like fire, and the air around her shimmered with unstable energy. She knew she was no longer who she had been before. She was no longer only a princess, no longer simply her father's daughter. She was becoming something else, something dangerous and unknown. But deep inside, a part of her still fought to hold on. She remembered the faces of her people, the laughter of children in her palace gardens, the songs of her homeworld that echoed through the skies. She remembered the responsibility that came with her crown, the duty to protect her empire and carry her people's pride. That memory clashed violently with the voice of the serum, which told her she was no longer bound by rules, no longer weak, no longer vulnerable. Promised freedom through strength, power through rage, and dominion through destruction. Her mind twisted as she fought these two sides of herself, every second threatening to pull her completely into the storm. Her alien guards stood outside the protective barrier, their faces filled with sorrow. They called her name again and again, pleading with her to resist the human poison, to remember who she was. But their voices felt distant, muffled, as if the serum itself wanted to drown them out. Instead, another voice reached her, clear, calm, and steady. It was the human soldier who had dared to step forward earlier. His words pierced through the noise, quiet but strong, reminding her of what she still was. He spoke not as a soldier, not as an enemy, but as someone who had seen her kindness before all of this. He told her she was still herself, that the serum had not stolen her, and that she could fight it if she chose to. She lifted her head, her glowing eyes locking onto his. For a moment, she saw herself reflected in his gaze. Not the monster she feared, but the princess she used to be. That gave her a fragile thread of hope, and she tried to hold on to it. She closed her eyes and pulled her mind inward, diving into the storm of energy inside her. What she saw was both beautiful and terrifying. Rivers of light ran through her veins, oceans of fire swirled in her chest, and endless echoes of her own voice screamed in rage, fear, and sorrow. It felt like she was standing at the edge of an abyss, with one side calling her to give in and destroy everything, and the other side begging her to remember love, duty, and peace. Her body shook violently as she tried to resist, sparks of blue light exploding from her skin, burning the floor beneath her. The soldiers outside braced themselves, unsure if she would survive or tear the entire base apart. The human scientist who had been watching her transformation leaned closer to the glass, whispering in awe that she was fighting the serum in a way no human ever had. He explained that humans who overdosed on the serum always lost themselves, but she was different. Her alien blood was not rejecting the serum. It was shaping it, bending it, trying to mold it into something new. If she won this inner battle, she would not just survive. She would become the first being to master the serum completely. But mastery came with a cost. The serum tested her, pushing her to relive her deepest fears and strongest emotions. She saw memories of betrayal, of wars fought by her people, of enemies laughing at her weakness, of humans treating her empire as fragile and primitive. Each vision made her burn with rage, and the serum fed on it, urging her to lash out, to use her new strength to crush every insult and every slight. Yet in the middle of those visions, another memory broke through. She saw herself laughing during the diplomatic meetings, exchanging stories with the very human soldier who now stood by her side. She remembered the way he had treated her not as an untouchable princess but as someone real, someone curious, someone with a heart. That memory pulled her back from the edge, reminding her that she was more than just power. Her voice trembled as she whispered into the silence of her mind, "I am not your weapon. I am not your monster. I am still me." The energy around her flared dangerously, blue light bursting across the chamber as if the serum fought back. The floor cracked, consoles shattered, alarms blared, and yet she remained standing, her eyes burning brighter. Her scream shook the chamber as she forced her mind to hold on, her body straining against the waves of uncontrollable power. Slowly, painfully, the storm inside her began to bend, not vanish, but bend toward her will. Her breathing slowed, her trembling eased, and for the first time since drinking the serum, she felt a spark of control. The soldiers outside gasped as they saw her straighten her posture, her glowing eyes steadier, her movements less violent. She raised her hand and the energy pulsing around her responded, calmer now, no longer exploding without reason. She looked at the human soldier through the glass and for the first time in hours, she gave a small nod. She was still herself. The serum had not taken her completely, but deep inside, she knew the battle was not over. The serum was still there, waiting, testing, hungry to grow stronger. She had gained control for now, but the struggle would continue every moment. If she faltered, if her emotions slipped again, the storm would return and consume her. Still, she stood taller, her heart filled with determination. She was not only fighting for herself, she was fighting for her people, for peace, and for the galaxy that now feared her. And while the galaxy's fleets prepared for war outside, inside the chamber a single alien princess had begun the hardest battle of all. Not against soldiers, not against weapons, but against herself. The chamber had fallen into an uneasy silence after the last outburst of energy. Sparks still hissed from broken consoles. The steel floor was cracked in jagged patterns where her feet had struck, and the air smelled of burnt wires and strange chemicals. The alien princess sat slumped against the wall, her body glowing faintly with blue veins that pulsed like lightning beneath her skin. Every rise and fall of her chest was heavy, each breath loud, and though she looked exhausted, her eyes still burned with a terrifying fire. It was the look of someone who was not just fighting those around her, but battling something far greater inside herself. Her mind was a battlefield. The serum flowed through her body like a living creature, twisting itself into her cells, merging with her blood, and forcing her to feel emotions she had never experienced with such intensity. Fear, Anger, sorrow, pride, and strange desires clashed in her heart like wild storms. She tried to anchor herself in the memories of who she was, the life she had before this moment. She remembered walking through the golden halls of her palace, hearing her father's voice as he spoke of duty and honor, watching her people bow as she passed. She remembered the promise she had made to her mother on her coronation day, to protect their people no matter the cost. These memories tried to hold her steady, but the serum's whispers were louder, promised that she could be more than just a symbol. It told her she did not need to live under anyone's rules, not her father's, not her people's, not humanity's. All she had to do was let go and embrace the raw, endless power boiling in her veins. Her body convulsed as the storm rose again, her skin glowing brighter until the soldiers outside shielded their eyes. Machines rattled, walls shook, and loose equipment slid across the floor. She pressed her hands to her head, her voice breaking in a cry that was part scream, part growl, echoing across the chamber. The guards outside shouted her name, their voices filled with desperation, but their words were drowned by the chaos inside her. Yet, through the noise, a single voice cut through like a blade of calm steel, the human soldier who had refused to leave her. He stood pressed against the glass, his eyes fixed on her, his hand lifted as if to remind her that she was not alone. His voice was low but steady, carrying strength without shouting. He called her by name, not her title, reminding her of the conversations they had shared before, the small human stories he had told her, the moments where she had laughed at his clumsy jokes. His words painted memories of calmness, of connection, of something real beyond power and rage. For the first time since the serum had taken hold, she felt a moment of quiet inside. She closed her eyes and forced herself to look inward, to step into the storm raging in her own mind. What she found was terrifying. It was as if she was standing on a vast battlefield inside her soul. Rivers of glowing blue light stretched endlessly, crashing against her like violent waves. She saw versions of herself in those currents. One where she was a queen of destruction, her voice commanding fleets to burn the stars. Another where she was a monster feared by her own people. Another where she was nothing but ashes consumed by her own fire. The serum pushed her to choose the darker paths, to let it consume her so it could live fully through her body. But she remembered the human soldier's voice and clung to it like a fragile rope. Her heart raced as she forced her thoughts to hold onto images of peace. She remembered children running in her palace gardens, laughing as they played under the twin suns of her world. She remembered her father's stern but proud gaze, the faith her people had placed in her, and the warmth of her mother's embrace. Those memories grew brighter as she pulled them forward, and for a moment they pushed back against the violent tide of the serum. Her body trembled violently, sparks of blue fire shooting from her fingertips, shattering another console nearby, but she refused to let go. She screamed out loud, not in pain this time, but in defiance, declaring to herself and the galaxy beyond the chamber walls that she would not be a slave to this chaos. The scientists watching from behind the glass could not believe what they were seeing. One of them whispered that no human had ever been able to resist the serum once it reached this stage. They either died, lost their minds, or turned into uncontrollable beasts. But here, before their eyes, the alien princess was fighting it. Not perfectly, not completely, but with a strength that should have been impossible. The serum was trying to bend her, yet she was bending it back. Her alien blood and her willpower were shaping the storm into something different, something new. Her knees shook as she rose slowly to her feet. She stood taller now, her breath still heavy but steadier, her eyes still glowing but with a sharper focus. The blue light that had once burst uncontrollably around her now moved like threads of energy following her command. She raised her hand and the energy responded, swirling gently instead of exploding. She was not cured, not safe, but she was in control, at least for now. She looked at the human soldier again, and in her glowing eyes there was no longer only chaos. There was gratitude, recognition, and determination. But deep inside, she knew the battle was not over. The serum had not vanished. It lingered like a shadow in every vein, waiting for the moment her will would falter, waiting for the chance to take over again. She knew this was not a victory, but a fragile balance. Still, it was enough to stand, enough to prove that she was not lost. She whispered softly, almost to herself but loud enough for the soldier to hear, "I am not your weapon. I am still me." Her words sent chills through the chamber. The guards looked at each other with relief, but also fear, because they knew what she said was true only for this moment. Tomorrow, the battle inside her might begin again. Tomorrow, she might not win. Yet in that moment, she was more than a victim, more than a creature of chaos. She was a princess who had stared into the storm of her own destruction and chosen to fight back. And outside, fleets of warships gathered, commanders shouted, and the galaxy braced itself, unaware that the real war was already being fought. Not between humans and aliens, not between fleets and armies, but within the heart of a single princess who carried the fate of both sides in her glowing hands.